I know a few different people who picked up puppies this spring, and I'm like, what a wonderful spring to get a dog. Like there's no, just generally society wise, we haven't had a better time to get a puppy in a long freaking time. So this is if you're a dog lover and if you're listening to this, this is a good time to play with dogs. And now we can get into the summer water work and we can do all kinds of fun stuff.
Yeah, and there's always something. I talk to a lot of dog owners, just like you, who say, "Yeah, my dog's trained up. I don't need to work with him anymore." Well, you do, because not only do they need to polish this or work a little bit more on that or learn a new skill, and I'm learning that every day. I can tell when my dog is bored. That's when he starts getting into trouble.
Yep.
So I am trying to do a better job of challenging them cerebrally as well as physically.
Mm-hmm.
It never hurts to run them 10 miles a day. But if you can challenge them from a mental perspective as well, those dogs are much happier at the end of the day.
Yep.
And your furniture survives a little bit longer.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up because that is something you hear that a lot where people will say, "Oh, my dog's 5, 6, 7, whatever prime. I don't need it's got it all figured out." It's not just about what you want to get out of the dog. It's about what the dog gets out of the training. And, it's different for different kinds of dogs. I run a lab, and so retrieving is the closest thing to dying and going to heaven. So we're not just working long trees or retrieves or blinds or whatever. It's just pure fun for her too. And of course there's fun retrieves in there. And then, your dogs, same kind of thing. And people forget that the dogs need the physical, but they need the mental as well.
We can always raise the bar no matter what level of ability our dog is at. A young dog, an old dog, a dog that's seen it all and been there and got the T-shirt. Just take a moment and think about, okay, well, here's what I'm doing, and he's just phoning it in. How do I make it 10% more challenging? All of a sudden, that dog is paying attention. He might be a little bit more psyched up. Everybody has more fun.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and the 10% point's important, right? Because a lot of people go from this to 100% harder or 50% harder, and the dog goes, "Boss, I don't know what you're asking me," and the wheels fall off. And so it has to be, again, to your point, has to be back to what does the dog need? Not I don't, what do I want to get out of the dog? Sure, but what does the dog really need, and what can it handle, and what's good for it?
Well, it's like Delmar Smith said a million years ago and has said over and over again to me and everybody else who studies that stuff, never give your dog a chance to fail, which means baby steps all the time. If you're hoping for the breakthrough, you're probably going to have your hopes dashed. So take it in little increments. The other thing about training that a lot of us, we might allude to it or we might know it, but we don't know it out loud, and that is the monks of New Skeet, who together collectively wrote a great book called The Art of Raising a Puppy, have really driven this home to me. The training process, especially if it's built on trust and positivity, the training process is the best way to build a real serious emotional bond with your dog. Mm-hmm. Yeah, you can do it by having fun and giving treats, but when you're working together, not only is that building that bond, it's also, deep down inside, the primeval in both of us, we're both predators and we're working together. There are so many benefits to working with your dog all year. It doesn't end for most of us. That's why we do what we do.
Yep. And you see the extension of that, I should say we have trainers on here constantly. And I know a ton of the same trainers, and they're kind of switching to being these magicians who can wave a magic wand and make dogs amazing and going, hey, this is a partnership now between me, you, and the dog. Let's all learn and teach together. And so you're seeing that movement, which is this total reflection of what you're talking about. But also the extension of it is you can work and work and work and work with your dog, and that's an amazing relationship, but it doesn't go next level till you get in the field a lot with them. And I know you travel all over the place and hunt different places, and it feels like, yeah, it's fun to go hunt the same grouse cover, the same woodcock cover, the same slough yowies pheasant hunt. But when you start seeing those new environments and figuring stuff out together, it's just an amazing thing that happens.
Well, I can't say enough about that. In fact, that's my next magazine assignment for Upland Almanac. Last fall, I hunted all new places for wild birds. That's all I did all season. Some of it's going to end up on the TV show, but most of it's not. And I did it because I was ready for that kind of next level, and really set that as the goal. I hunt a lot of new places every year, and virtually all public ground. And I just decided to make it a challenge this time. It's, some people like the quail slam or whatever. That mine was public land, wild birds. And sure enough, that dog of mine, he came through because we had to work together.
And what are you running for a dog?
I've got a German wire-haired pointer. His name is Flick. He's almost 3, which if you're a wire hair owner, everybody out there knows that means another couple of years and he'll have his brain cells. But he could be the dog of a lifetime if I don't screw it up. And that's, I say that about every one of my wire hairs. He's my 5th one. And they've all been better than the ones before, but they're all great. I mean, name a dog that you've had that it wasn't great at the time. I mean, that's what they are.
Yep. Well, I know. And it's such a consistent thing that we have going on as dog owners where everybody thinks they have the most amazing dog ever. Then they lose that dog and they go, I'll never have that again. They get a new dog and they go, this dog is incredible. And it's one of like the secrets of dog ownership that it's like, it's so easy to get one that's so awesome, It
is. And we all have high hopes. We really do. When we, the beyond puppy breath, the other thing we love most about a young dog is the potential there, and it really is true. They are a block of marble waiting for us to carve off all the extraneous material, and our challenge becomes doing that in an artful way. We do need to be the Michelangelo and just take away the stuff that shouldn't be there. It's hard. It requires discipline on our part, but the rewards, live to hunt is true. There's nothing better.
Yep. Yeah. And so I want to talk to you about all this travel that you did last year. That's an interesting concept. We've kicked that around in the whitetail space before doing that. And I do probably, 85, 90% of my hunting is public land for everything. And I go to new places every year and I find I just enjoy the overall process more than going. I like going to places I've been to before. There's just that feeling of comfort, kind of like fishing the same lake you're really used to. But there's also just that feeling of like, now you get the entire process and you have to go. You have no preconceived notions other than the little bit of the research you've done. You go, all right, I'm going to show up here and I'm going to figure it out. We're going to figure it out together, or it's not going to work and I'm going to move on. But there's something to that it's so enjoyable.
It is the closest we're going to get to discovering a new continent on the earth. We only have a few things we could still do in life. One of them is discover stuff. Whether it's discovering something about your own abilities or a new place. And to me, at least, I've finally figured out that I'm just terminally curious, and I don't need to kill birds. See, we go through in the fly fishing world, which is the other world I dwell in. There's an old axiom. First, you want to catch a fish, any fish. Then you want to catch a lot of fish. Then you want to catch a big fish. Then, who cares? I just want to go fishing.
Yep.
And the same holds true in the bird hunting world. Maybe the progression is a little bit slower, or a lot of people are arrested at one step or another. I'm not judging anybody, but I go for so many things besides meat in the pot that. It's like the cliche, and I got skunked yesterday on this stream, and not my fault. It was running really high and cold, but you turn around to the next guy and say, but what a beautiful place. That's why I really go, and it's not bullshit. Yep. It's the truth.
Yep.
And going to 30 places I'd never been before was the same.
Mm-hmm.
It was, yes, every day's different. The challenges are there, which is good for me. It's like raising the bar for the human as well as the dog in the training world. And we got to adapt, and we got to adapt as a team.
Yep.
And the dog is on his toes. The humans are on their toes, and all of a sudden, the fun begins.
Mm-hmm. Well, and it's something you said there. There's kind of a disconnect a lot of times on this subject where people will say, I'm not driving 3 hours or I'm not driving 12 hours for, marginal bird numbers. Or we see this in the whitetail world too, where it's like, I'm not traveling out of state to kill the same buck I can kill at home. And I'm like, you're missing the whole point. You're not traveling just purely to kill a buck and come home with it. You're not traveling just to get your 3 roosters a day or your quail or whatever. It's the experience. And people very consistently undersell the quality of the experience you can have on public land. And I've seen this, and I'm curious your take on it. It's almost everywhere I go, and I haven't hunted as many states as you have for birds, but I've hunted quite a few. And it's like I show up somewhere, and the locals are like, not worth it. Don't bother. And you go out there, and there's an amazing opportunity, very consistently, if you're willing to work.
Half the time they just want you to go away so they can have that spot.
Well, that's okay an element.
Too.
Yeah, for sure.
We all play that game. When people ask me where they should go chukar hunting, I tell them Iowa. It never works.
Yeah. I hope it doesn't work.
There is so much more to it. And, if you're not there yet, that's okay. If you need to come home with a limit, that's okay too. That everybody, whatever floats your boat. For me, it's the scenery. It's watching the dog. It's the chance to see places that I've never seen. We found petroglyphs Saturday. Saturday night, we were standing on the porch of the Mercantile in the wide spot in the road, and we met a guy who was hiking the 350-mile Oregon High Desert Trail all by himself. All of those things are important to me.
Mm-hmm.
What's important to you? All right, then go to places that might offer that. But I think what the first thing we have to do, and the industry is guilty.
Big time.
As charged. The industry promotes success as being only one thing. A dead animal on the ground in front of you while somebody else takes your picture.
Mm-hmm.
And someday I'll write on that subject. But for now, I can just tell you there's a lot more to it than that. Body piles, if you watch my TV show, there's never a body pile at the end of the show. That's not what I want to show people. And, again, if you want to bring a feast home for 14 people, I'm okay with that. Just make sure you give me an invitation.
Mm-hmm.
But there, you never know what you're going to find, especially when you're discovering new ground, maybe in a new state, but maybe just in the farthest, southest, eastest corner of your own state.
Well, yeah. And, I think when you're talking about, individual goals, everybody goes out there for a different reason, and do what you want. What ticks me off is when I see people not go do this stuff because they're buying into the BS. And I want people to experience this, especially if you have a dog. And I want people to understand, it's pretty consistent for us to hear from, dog owners in Michigan or dog owners out east in the Northeast who own some kind of sporting breed and they've never hunted. And they're like, we've heard you. We want to go try this. I don't think there's any birds around. And so you start trying to point them to like woodcock migration or something they might be able to come across in their state. It might not be wild roosters anymore. It might be a limited grouse population or whatever, or ducks, but there's something. And you hear back them and they'll say, well, my coworker said there's no birds. And I'm like, go experience it for yourself and tell me if it's worth it. Like, put in a little bit of effort to learn this on your own and draw your own conclusions with your dog, and then come back to me and tell me. And I hate that people they're missing out on this stuff because of that.
Yeah. They're one step further evolved. Pardon my pun, everybody, but then some, in that they already have a hunting dog.
Mm-hmm.
And that dog will bedazzle them no matter what. I don't care if the place is a pool table flat desert. Just watching the dog is enough. I mean, that's the number one priority for my viewers on the TV show is I go hunting to watch the dog. All right. But yeah, find a bird or two, even better. But, that's not even in the top three. Killing birds, bringing home food is not up there for a lot of people. But, it's like Jose Ortega y Gasset said 80 years ago. You don't have to kill to be hunting, but you have to have the potential to kill something.
Yep.
Which means you better carry a gun. You better make sure there's some ammo in the gun. If you'd never pop a cap all day, that's okay too.
Yep.
You'd look silly walking around with a gun dog without a gun. So take your shotgun and have a good time no matter what doesn't happen.